Well, this looks interesting.
Yes, it's a slightly different approach that I'm taking today. So, this morning I've been out and I dug this trench that I mentioned the other day for this path that's going to go behind the wall, so the wall's going to sit back on here. And basically I've dug all the soil out and put a load of stone sort of rubbly stuff that I've basically sieved out the soil in the bottom, so it's probably 3 inches or so deep below this. I've put some of that in. Then I've taken just normal cement, dusted it on top, I'll put a layer on top and wet it. And my theory with that is I just want it to create a sort of a barrier so that things can't grow through it. That was kind of the theory. I don't know whether it'll work, but we shall see. I was just being lazy and didn't want to mix a load of cement to lay in it. And then I'm just going to put this stuff, this agricultural grit stuff, on top, and I'm probably going to go get some SBR and dribble a load on. But to be fair, I might not do actually, because it doesn't need to, it can just sit here because it will be between the wall and the plant, so I might just leave it loose. And that sort of then forms a path, and then what I'll probably do is just put a bit of soil on that edge to try and contain it, because I don't want my path too wide, but I want it wide enough that if the plants then grow here you can still sort of see there is a path down, like they've fought their way through it.
Yeah,
it's getting a bit overgrown.
That plant will grow anywhere.
Yeah.
If there is any hint of a tiny bit of soil in that
Yeah, well,
grit,
this is
it will
it.
grow.
Things might grow in this, but we can but try. It is a garden after all that we are trying to stop things growing in, so you know, if it decides to become a garden again, then it becomes a garden again. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, you've got a bit of a fight against the heat today, haven't you?
Yeah.
Everything sets a bit quick.
Yeah, well, and there's a bit of a breeze, so it's sun and breeze and things are setting.
Perfect conditions if you wanted it to set.
Yeah. So, I'll do a bit of that. And I'm probably going to have to just layer it up a little bit more here, because we're going to bring the ballast across here, so it wants to be, I don't want to be dipped down, because otherwise you can have a drop off on your path.
You could have a step.
You could have a step, but it'll never have a sharp edge to it, because you'd have to wall something then.
And you'd have to have a stone as an edging step.
Yeah, so then we're just going to pat this down. If I can get the sort of smaller stuff that's at the bottom of the bag. And I can sort of make something like that. So maybe I will put a bit of SBR on, because it might just keep that top layer all solid. I probably should have put some underneath, but hey ho, we'll do the other trick of putting it on top and letting it go down.
Yeah, see if those people that do that are right.
Yeah. I should think either way works.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it makes a lot of
Plenty
difference.
of times I top the SBR up on the ballast, and I do it from the top down, because obviously it's already laid, so that is the way you can do it. So yes, either or works.
Ooh, breezy.
But quite nice just nipping around that stone there.
Yeah. Yeah, the stones look good.
As I say, once they get to this end, they have to climb up onto the tracks anyway to go anywhere, but that's...
Well, if it's people going to the quarry, then they might just walk along the quarry line.
Yeah, that's it. They can
Because that's the quarry line, really.
They can do that. Right, so I will go and prepare some SBR, but that's basically that. And then I need to, I might even bring Henry out actually and just suck off the dust that's down this edge. Play about with my walls to get them in the order that I want them to be in, and then I guess I need to cement those on.
Be very careful you don't just suck all your grit up with Henry.
Yeah, well that is the risk.
Because he does like to take pencils and clips and screws.
Yeah, I might be alright, to be fair. I just need
half
to
an inch away.
try and get rid of some of the dust that's on this edge, otherwise my cement won't stick very well. Not as though the wall's going to go very far once they're ballasted up to it,
No.
etc. So I won't worry too much, but there we go. Right.
One path.
SBR.
Yep.
So yes, things have progressed a little bit since we last filmed. We've sort of just got on with it in the sun. But walls are cemented together, cemented down and cemented together. I think I've got pretty good joints. I've tried to sort of rough them up so they look a little bit like they're stone. Obviously it's not fully set yet, so we'll have to see what the colour looks like, and then I'm hoping then I'll just better brush a bit something over and blend it in. I also then, I won't say with the leftover cement because I didn't have any leftover cement, I had to mix a little bit more. Did the station fill that up. The plan with this was to use some jointing compound, which I had left over from doing the 2-foot section of rail over there. And it comes in 2 bags, and it does say that once you opened it, it will go hard. I needed to open the second bag to finish that bit, so I wrapped it up really tight thinking, oh that'll do, it won't set. I've never opened it since then until I went to open it today thinking I won't let any air in. Solid as a rock. So there you go. Never mind. So this will have to be done another day. But we're getting closer with it. So yeah, so did this, and then right on the end we got one of the little huts which isn't stuck down, it is just literally sat there. And we've basically just made it so that the path
Don't know whether I can show it.
went round that side, so put a little bit of a stone in there, like they just went round the building, and quite what it's doing there, dunno.
It's a shed do you need? Well, it's more than a shed, it's got a chimney, so...
Yeah, they're nice and warm in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of, and I think it just finishes that off nice at that end. And it is all at least 75mm from the centre of the rail clearance, so we should be clearance plenty. Should be clearance plenty. Should have plenty of clearance.
I think the heat's got to you.
Yeah. There is another section which I managed to do with a bit of cement over there, so we'll go have a look at that.
Mm-hmm.
So here, quite a long time ago, somebody did say on one of the videos when I put it up that I should make this into some steps, and I've been sort of thinking of how to do it, and then today I just went, you know what, I'm just going to try it and see what happens. So I've done it. They're rather large steps, I will admit. You will be having to work those knees considerably to get up those steps.
They're more like ornamental steps than anything else.
Yeah, but you know.
They look better than the end of bricks.
Yeah. So yeah, they're just the stone blocks I already had. The tricky bit was the fact that obviously you've got to wall something below them, and I didn't want to use up all my blocks. So when I broke this section of brick out here, because I have to do that so that the step wasn't here and blocking the opening there.
I'll show that.
Yeah, so I had to cut that bit of the brick out to get these ones up, and so that bit of the brick is actually in places here to try and sort of joint it all, and I need to push my bit of cement in there. Look, it's a bit rough, but it sort of filled those bits in, so it steps up. The top one is just a slither, because I didn't want to have to cut the brick again, because it's quite difficult to do and you risk knocking this off. But anyway, there we go. A little bit of sort of path between them, and then I've gone with a bit of rougher stuff just so I don't use up my nice stuff on top. And then I managed to find a stone that just sort of wedged in underneath there, which sort of makes it look like the path goes off into infinity space here. But that just stopped that from dangling there.
I like to think it's a viewpoint over the railway.
Yep. Yep, but...
In reality, that's far too low.
It's nice, yeah, well... Yeah, I mean, it's practically a step looking at that, but anyway.
Yeah.
Let's just finish that bit off nicely and blends it in a bit more, just get rid of that brick. So next thing to do is to run some trains and test the points over there, and generally just have a nice time, run some trains and give you some shots around the garden as it is currently. So we'll do that. This is the current testing setup you've just been watching, or just about to watch. There's a makeshift camera wagon going on there, but we're basically just checking the points through the station to make sure they are working how we want, because if I'm going to ballast I need to know that all that section's good. We seem to have a little bit of a problem with this joint off the bridge here with the tender on this loco. I'm not 100% sure what it is, because it's not always consistent, so every time I watch it, it wants to go over perfectly fine. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that one. But it's just when you're heading off in that direction, not down here where it is currently. So anyway, I'll try and give you a different view and we'll go around again. That's his car, folks. So this morning I've come out and done a few jobs, including this road right here. So I basically came out this morning early with the plan of staying in the shade because it's very warm today, and as you can see the sun is catching up with me, so I've not done very well. I haven't filmed very much because I've been trying to get this done before the sun got me, but yeah, basically I've put this road in here. I've been very lazy. I have basically just cleared off the weeds and laid a load of the grit down and put a bit of SBR on top of it. I suspect this won't last very long because I haven't put anything underneath it. The weeds will just go through it. So there is a reason for that. It's because when I come to do this section here at some point, hopefully soon, that's likely to affect where this bank is here, because I'm likely going to have to dig bits out and things. So for now it's just there for looks, but how long it will last, probably not long. I have made a little bit of a crossing here with it, trying to bring the ballast or this grit a little bit higher, and then I've just cleansed it with the truck there to make sure that the rails are clear. The other thing I've done this morning is I've gone through and trimmed all the bushes and things and plants here so that I can try and ballast down this back here if I can stay in the shade. That's the plan. But then there's another little job I've done over there again to aid in ballasting. So if we come round this way, you'll see all the wall is looking good this morning. I will just have to maybe just put a little bit on the joints, but it's not looking bad actually. Platform's still not done. That will be hopefully done at some point. So this little bit here. So I've re-leveled this track here because this was just coming up over a hump. So that's been re-leveled. I need to sort obviously the base of this, which is hopefully going to be soon. I've also taken out the 2 points that were here. So I did have a plan of putting in a crossing here, but just the angles and everything don't work, and I'm not sure it's really going to gain us very much. So I've simplified it, taken these points out, put just straight track back in, keep this one here because that's kind of a release road through here because the main running lines are this one, so you can pull off there or pass in there if need be. But yeah, simplified that. So hopefully I can come along here today with some ballasting from there and sort of stay in the shade is what I'm hoping, but we'll see how far I get. But yeah, you can sort of see that I've cut, terrible filming, this bit here back because it was all grown underneath the track, and obviously when I come to ballast it I want my ballast there. I'm happy for it to grow back over a little bit if it wants, although it needs to not be above the rails, so we shall have to see how that goes on. But yeah, I'll have to leave the little bit off on that point because that'll all get done when I do this, but I can at least get this line all done here, which will tidy it up no end. I'm really looking forward to the result on this one. So I'll get on while I'm in the shade. As you can see, we have ballast all the way down this section. This bit's fairly dry. Apologies for shadows and light, it's the reason why I'm working here. But all the way down here, and then I had some lunch and I've just done this section after lunch, which is why it's looking a bit whiter. But that will all dry out, especially in the heat that it is currently. And that means we're back to jointed up there. So all this bit's done. There is just the small matter of doing that, but that will probably all get done when I do the quarry, whatever I do the quarry base in. And well, yes, this whole station here. And my problem now is that I'm running out of ballast. Well, I'm running out of the larger stuff, so wait for the camera to adjust. Basically, this larger stuff that's in the middle here I'm running out of. I've probably got more, well, now I've got more of the smaller stuff. So I'm actually thinking the station will probably be all in the smaller stuff, purely because there's a lot more traffic there and it will tend to get broken down anyway.
So you often see it more as a sort of dust anyway around high traffic areas. So I think that worked well, and that leaves me with some of the larger stuff to do odd bits elsewhere as and when needed. The other thing I want to do with the station is I want to have it a lot blacker. So you'll see this is, in fact if I just pan around this way, this is quite light, the sort of colour of it, because it's limestone based. So I'm going to do this bit in with some colouring basically to make it a lot darker and have some really black patches where the locos sit. So I'm sort of thinking just that section there, especially where the core stage is, I will do quite black, and at the other end as well black, and maybe that siding, and then a lot of this here. I'll sort of try and blend it all together. I've got some black cement colouring powder. Looks like a pigment stuff I'm going to experiment with, so that will be coming up on a video at some point. Whether it works or not, I'll try and film that. But yeah, basically I want to do all of this area with sort of that sort of idea, and it'll then blend back into this, which is why I've stopped at this sort of line here, because even like areas like this here I think I could probably do with a sort of darker bit, because it's going to have locos sat and trucks sat and be all weathered and mucky and khaki, and then when you steam up on it you'll make it even khackier and oily. Perfect. So yeah, but that means we've got all that section around there done, all the way down here. Basically the whole running line now is done all the way around to that end. And also, because I probably haven't mentioned it yet, yes, the grass does need cutting, but we're in May, so I'm doing no mow May, which I'm trying to do every year just to let it grow up a bit. And I'm also slightly lazy, which is why I haven't done it yet, but it'll be done probably next week. So yeah, that's why it's long. It is because I'm lazy, but there you go. So yeah, that gets us all the way around there, and then obviously the front is another problem, but yeah, it's looking a lot tidier now. Is this section? I would go and show you out stood in the garden, but it is far too warm, so I'm stood here in the shade and thinking that I've probably done enough for today in this heat. So there you go.
Well, we've had a bit of a productive afternoon, and while Rob's valiantly attempting to sweep bits of tree off the line.
Garden keeping.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah, well, it's not housekeeping, is it?
No, true. I'm going to try and show you what we've accomplished. We really should have filmed some of this as we went along, but we got doing. So, we have added a little bridge. This is actually an offcut of the old loop from the old line that is now out the front. And this was just a bit that we cut off. That it did come originally to sort of here somewhere, around the curve. That edge was almost right already. And so yeah, we had to move a few screws to redo the ladder system underneath where the blocks are, so we didn't cut through screws, although Rob moved them wrong and cut through screws anyway.
Shh! Don't tell him that!
And yeah, so we've got a nice little bridge. So it did take quite a bit of scraping the old ballast, because this was all ballasted. Scraping all the old ballast off the top and taking the track off, but...
Which we had to do because it wasn't 4 foot.
Yes, the track, well, that's worth saying, the track wasn't 4 foot, it was 2 foot 6-ish, probably slightly over actually on this bit, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
This bit was a bit...
That was just making up
anything.
Radiuses.
But it's going to be 4 foot across here now. We've just got to...
Which it doesn't quite... This radius here isn't quite right, but it's close enough that short section it's not going to matter. We're not going to
well, yeah, because these sides are basically track height, so you're not going to hit them. And they're not that close. So now we're just debating the best way to put track on. Oof. As to where to join the track between the point that is hidden in the plant that I'm going to have to cut soon, that point. Oh, we've got the 4 foot marker on, ish, 4 foot ish.
So it needs naming, the 4 foot-ish marker.
Yeah, it's very much only ish.
But that sort of thing.
Yeah. So you can sort of see it's not perfectly lined up, but to be honest, where the track was before, it's not far off it. So that's the idea.
Yeah.
Now we've just got to find some track and open the last box of screws. We're going to have to get more screws, Rob.
Oh, more brass screws.
So we'll rejoin in a minute when we've got some bits sorted. Right, well, it's about an hour since the last clip you saw, and we have track fully laid across the bridge. Oh,
Nearly fully laid.
although it might have been 2 screws forgotten to tighten up there. We've even, for like maximum efficiency, reused the bit of track that was on top of the Filcris section in the first place. Which does look like it, yes, might need some adjustments there.
Better.
You know you've got the big gap over here instead.
Well, there's a small gap there. And yeah, well, there's no gaps on that bit. So the oldness needs to shift you up a bit.
Just needs a bit of fine adjustment. Yeah.
There it goes.
Here's it going. Wiggle it a bit. Does a truck run over it? Cool.
Definitely, I can feel a little bit
Yeah,
tippy-toppy on that
levelling,
section, but this bit's alright.
it runs. That'll do to start with.
Oh, yeah,
Definitely a bit of levelling
there's
needs
definitely a
doing.
bit of levelling there needed, but oh yeah, that just wants packing on that one there because it's back correct there.
So yeah.
Now the tedious job.
Yeah, we won't film the tedious job of levelling. We may be here a while. Well, levelling is done in theory, so time to test it with an actual train. Albeit a very short one. We made something that works.
Yeah.
Like how you've just sort of sat down now.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to change the point.
Well, I can take the ceremonial stone wedged in the point so that it doesn't change because there's no track there out. Free up the point that's been like that for, well, because it would fit.
Yeah. And then in theory,
I can back all the way out.
can I get the camera down there? So that has basically made one nice long siding if you really want to. You could make a very long train in there. Or it's just an alternative escape route. Coming up the hill.
Yeah, at 4 foot.
At 4 foot, yeah.
That was the key thing with that bit.
Behind the bush somewhere. Oh hey. Speedy train. I think we could safely say that works.
It works for that loco and guardman combination.
Yeah, true.
Short wheelbase
Well,
loco and...
Our open date is in 2 weeks at the time of filming this, so it'll get some testing then. We'll
I don't
see,
think I'm going to ballast this section before then.
I wouldn't if I were you.
I think I'll let the open day test it out and then ballast afterwards.
That sounds like a very good idea to
Yeah.
me. Right, let's put the loco away and go and have tea.
Yeah, go on then.